Now can I do my Irmo drum roll with my Irmo colors? Number 15 is discussion of architectural and engineering design of Irmo High School, and we're going to welcome Mary Beth Branham from LS3P, and I think now you're going to see my excitement for what we voted on earlier and why it is very pertinent to the future of Irmo High. So come on up.
As Mary Beth comes to the podium here, and we want to thank Principal Dr. Hampton for being here as well, letting principals know if you stay through a board meeting, you'll get additional items from the
And it's
table.
late, Dr. Ross. I think you need to give her some time because she had to wait this long.
They did. I want to give the board and community an update of where we are with the project. We want to thank LS3P in their work with us. Initially, if you remember at the community forum that they did host it very well to receive impact from students, they outlined the constraints that we had on the property. And so they came up, those areas in red were the areas where they were constrained to build the facility. And so we had the first version, which was the wing that was going to be in real close proximity to St. Andrews. Then we looked at the second version, but it still had proximity to St. Andrews as well, and was constrained by the dimensions of the current property that we had. And so we looked at other versions, and again, those constraints show the distance from where the wing would be to the cafeteria and all of the issues that we had there. So we met with Mary Beth, and we asked her what could happen if we purchased the property that was between our properties that was causing those constraints. Could we change the orientation of the wing, move the cafeteria closer to where the students would be, have a future small business incubator in the area of the old cafeteria, and so we brought that to the board. I sent out a memo to you on September the 18th asking you to consider the purchase of this property because it would give us more options. And so we thank you for allowing us to procure that property. And so I want to turn it over now to Mary Beth to talk about their vision for Irmo High School now that we have agreed to purchase this property.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ross, Madam Chair, members of the board. Thrilled to be here tonight as well. It really was liberating, in a sense, to actually have some more options in terms of the layout. We too felt that, you know, the farther we got away from the core of the campus and farther away from the dining area, those were just kind of our only options at the time. So allowing us to really take a step back and look at if we were not impeded by that particular piece of property that was not available to us, it really allowed us to look at it in a brand new perspective. You can see that here in the kind of the shaded pink area, we were able to, and by the way, thank you so much for your feedback on some of the previous things that we had done, because it really helped the direction of the design in general. And I'm excited to show you some of that today because we got so excited about it, we went ahead and started doing some preliminary elevations and things like that to show you. But you can see that one of the feedback that we got and we were able to do now with that property is actually pull the facade back more in line with where West Wing is and kind of become a bookend to where the auditorium is on the other side. And so it really allowed us to have this ability to bring your campus together architecturally and aesthetically. So you can see we're also trying to look at the patio area to replicate some of the way it is in front of the auditorium, again, just making it a very cohesive design. And so we looked at a variety of ways of just, you know, we've just started looking at the site in general, where drop-off might be, where visitor entry might be. So this was a little preliminary that we sent on, but we've actually started to look at it even further. And I think we've got those slides in there. Oh, so to show you kind of how it started to develop, it also really started laying out very well as far as the floor plan went. And I have my one of my young architects, Tyler, with me today, and he did a lot of this work, so I want to give him a lot of good credit for it. But it really allows us to have the administrative area up front. We have that secure entry vestibule that y'all just discussed, that blue box on the bottom left. Oh, thank you so much, Amy. On the bottom left is the secure entry vestibule that you'll be buzzed into the reception area. So we're incorporating that, of course, as a key element. And then the rest of the administrative area, I'm not sure if I can point with this. Yeah, the rest of the administration area and guidance is all kind of up in this area here. And it then leads you back to the classroom wing. So this front section is a two-story wing, a two-story element in the front that you'll see some elevations of in a minute. And then we have a three-story classroom wing because of the grade change and things like that and because of what we need in terms of classroom space. As we go up to the second floor, it also gave this wonderful opportunity to put the media center up on the second floor and have all this beautiful glass work along the front, so we have a beautiful view. Again, pulled back from St. Andrews, so it really, gives you that feeling that it's part of the campus and part of the look of the school. Again, going to the second story of classroom space itself. We are looking at different connectivities to the west wing. We haven't really resolved all of that yet, but we're looking at potentially it wouldn't connect on the lower level, perhaps. It might. We're very preliminary in this, but maybe there's a bridge kind of connector to the second floor. And then as you move up to the third floor, it really becomes roof elements in the front, but we have a whole third story wing in the back, which is mostly the science classrooms because they need the venting and things upstairs. So what's nice about this is we've worked very hard with Dr. Hampton and Dr. Ross on the square footage. We're trying to keep it as tight as possible. So we're around 120,000 square feet, but again, we're at the very preliminary stages, but we've worked really hard not to have to replicate or replace the 150,000 square feet of the existing east wing. So anyway, we're very excited about this direction. To give it a little bit further, just to show you, a little bit more about how that campus. So one of the things that's a little different from what Dr. Ross showed is we want to be thinking a lot about what could be the next phases of this project. So we want to be looking at those now so that we don't put something in the wrong place and then you can't put something where it needs to be. So we're looking at perhaps bringing the cafeteria when it's time to be able to bring that on board for a new cafeteria dining area, a little bit closer to where most of the kids are in the academic portions of the building. We will have to look at access for fire code and some things like that, but then we're looking at one day, perhaps we'll be able to replace the west wing as well. So we want to take that into consideration. We know that these are down the road kind of options, but we do want to think about them because otherwise we may put something in the wrong place and we have no options for that. So just to get you a little bit more excited, so here's kind of a massing diagram. It's kind of hard to see on the screen up here, but this front part, as you can see, is the two-story element we talked about, and then the three-story classroom wing behind it that comes right back onto this property that we now have. I wanted to show you, even though there's a very long elevation at the top here, I really did want you to see that the grade change does come down right there where the drop-off area is. So we are going to be, the height of the building will come down a little bit, but we wanted to replicate a lot of the height proportions that's happening in the auditorium and in the entry to the auditorium. So we wanted to complement it, but not necessarily replicate it, so that it's very clear where's the front door, where's the new admin front door, as opposed to, we don't want everybody running over to the auditorium and thinking that's the front door. So we wanted to put it, have its own identity, but yet complement and look like it's a very cohesive campus. So we're looking at the bridge connector as maybe something out of metal panels. Again, we haven't finalized all the materials. We'll be coming back to you with some more ideas and working with Dr. Hampton and her group. But you can see this new front door. It gives us an opportunity to put a new title to Irmo High School there. Some of the things we're thinking about, again, we want your input, is maybe there's a way to bring in a gold band on, because as different from the auditorium, it's two-story glass, right? In our scenario, there's two floors. So there's going to be spandrel glass that hides the structure between the first and second floor. So perhaps One idea is to use the gold color of Irmo, Jan, that you're wearing tonight, Ms. Hammond. So, again, these are just things we're starting to explore. These are just preliminary, but we wanted to show you kind of how we were coming along with the thoughts on it. Here's another perspective looking at the plaza. You can see how nice the plaza area could be for gatherings and things out front. Again, kind of just really becoming a sense of place for the facility. Again, and just another view of that. And again, coming into the front door. Yes, ma'am.
While you're on the front door, I can tell you that boards for the last 20 years, and then when I was SIC chair there, we kept fussing about you couldn't tell where the front was. And I'll never forget, they just put these, we fussed so much as a board, I wasn't the only one that thought we couldn't tell where the front was, and we're this great high school, and where do you come in? And this was before we had the new addition with the new auditorium. They put those silver columns, and there are 4 of them, like right there, and we were supposed to be happy with that. We were not. So I am so excited that looks so good to Irmo High. I just had to tell you that, because truly lots of boards from the past just kept saying we need something. This is not a new idea, and yet you didn't know all that, but see how good you are? You knew we needed it.
Y'all gave me a lot of great feedback. I'm just reacting to the great feedback y'all gave.
We appreciate it, but I just was so excited when you said that about having a real entrance. Thank you.
Absolutely. Are there any comments or thoughts on some of what you're seeing? Anyone?
It's
Yeah,
just,
I do, but
Yes, sir.
yeah, I think it's easier to see it when we hear,
I know you're not going to like me. I was looking at, is any chance we could rotate the heel of the L there to make with all that glass to make the south light rather than?
So we are going to rotate it.
Well, you've got a lot of glass facing the east. You're going to get a whole bunch of
we are
sunlight
gonna
in
look
the
at
mornings. It's going to heat up that building. And then
So we're going to do some solar shades and that sort of thing. Again, we have just begun this, but I think we can handle that with some solar blades and shades is what we're thinking, so that we'll have, of course, window shades as well that will block out a certain amount of light when they need it and that sort of thing, particularly in the media center. So I think we can mitigate it, but your point is well taken, but I think we can mitigate it so it becomes a feature.
the reason I ask this, and this is no critique of your work, don't take it this way, but when we did a project recently, we were told the same thing, and now we have air conditioning problems. We were told that all this illustrious glass with this low E argon and all this stuff in it, and mechanically taking away you can't take away what the sun does.
I
mean,
totally
you cannot do it, and I just worry about the amount of glass. I'll give you a good example. Go up in the Prisma building over there, the new hospital. Go there in the morning and sit there and see. You can't. It's so bright in that building and so hot up next to that glass that when the doctor calls you back, you'll take off and run back there because. But anyways, I just want to make sure, I see this all the time where the buildings aren't oriented in the right direction, and when that happens, you have to take care of it mechanically, and when you do, that creates, mechanical situations that we have to do in maintenance. And that was the only critique, that I could see there.
Thank you for that. Really, we'll take a look at it for sure. The good news is that classrooms do have the correct solar orientation for the maximum day lighting, so I think that's the plus in that. Mm-hmm. But I do agree that there may be ways, maybe we have some overhangs that are a little bit more overhang than is currently there, so we'll look at some options for sure.
Introduce a shading coefficient or something, down on the glass, and I think that might mitigate that some.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Good point. See, you need a construction guy.
And because we have that spandrel glass, I think we might be able to do another really horizontal solar shade on that to help with the first floor as well.
So offset it. So
could do that, absolutely.
The overhang from the first floor is actually the structure of the second floor.
That's a great idea. We'll definitely take a look at that.
Thank you, Mr. Lovelace. Ms. Huddle.
I just wanted to ask you, if you didn't mind, to go back to one of the slides that shows the property and why it was important. Yeah, that's a good one. So the pink, right, is the proposed building. Literally half of that is in the land that we don't currently own, but will soon own, right?
Exactly.
So that's why that was really important, because without that, you were having to kind of shift that over, and the kids were going to have to walk a very long way.
Exactly. So that really, yeah, and particularly we weren't able to pull it back until finally when Dr. Ross says, I think we have an opportunity, I was like, well, thank goodness, because it was just so far forward, more forward than we would normally have approached it if that little piece of sliver just kind of happened to be there. So absolutely.
And, I mean, I know it would have been possible to move it up to the road, but I know a lot of us were concerned for safety reasons of having that building too close to a very busy road as well.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And to Ms. Huddle,
This gives you a lot more front yard, so to speak, and it'll be a beautiful new, so that you can see in this particular site plan, we're proposing perhaps that we enter where the student entry is right now to the parking area, and it become a separate drop-off, because there's a grade change between that upper level and lower level. Yes, ma'am.
and to your point, I think it's important for the public to know that's here and listening, the importance of this property. It's like in the middle, we own everything around it, you know, except for that one little corner where the, there's a Oriental store, but it's very tiny. And so, and we already had the land that is on Westcott, where there was a house that we bought several years ago. So this just puts it all together. And for people that have a real desire to look at the future of Irmo and putting this together like it needs to be, buying that land was pertinent for us to get the right thing and the right fit for the Irmo community.
Yes, ma'am. All right, are there any other thoughts? Because really, this
Looks
is...
really good. I love how it works in with the
And
central.
we can put in that lower area, if we determine either we can connect on the lowest level, or we can actually put some dividers so that people can't come in through that wing in the middle of it. So we're going to be looking at solutions for that as well.
Mary Beth,
Yes,
does
ma'am.
that plan, we would keep the gym that's there, which that means so much to Irmo. But-
Correct. Oh, absolutely. We're keeping the gym.
And then it's newer than the old gym, but there's the practice gym, that would just stay a practice gym?
Yes, ma'am. And so I know I had brought to y'all in an earlier workshop some budgeting numbers, but just wanted to kind of condense it a little bit, just to, instead of having all the separate line items that I had shown y'all, it kind of goes into the total building and site. I've just kind of combined it to talk about that we'll still have some stormwater retaining walls, some demolition on that site where some of the parking is. We're going to have to reroute some driveways to get in that are currently there. So there's quite a bit of site work. A lot of that has not been designed yet or determined. So these are just guesstimates at the moment. I did put a design, for that purpose, I put a design contingency in there because now that we have this new property, we'll be getting a survey. There's a lot of site things that really we haven't identified because you hadn't purchased the site yet. So now that you have, or will be, then we'll be able to discover those, and I'll be bringing, the next step would be getting a cost estimate at the final SD, and we'll be bringing you cost estimates at that time. Again, these are just based on the square footages like the first time. And then also showing that, I've estimated your soft costs, which is all the other things that you as a district pay for. That's not in my bucket, it's y'all's money to pay for other things. And so right now, again, just very preliminarily, we might be at around 55 million plus for total project budget. Construction cost looks like we're hovering around 46 to 47 million. Again, these are very preliminary numbers based on what we are seeing in the market now. My hope is that maybe the market will settle down a little bit by the time that we bid this, but we just don't have that crystal ball at the moment. So this is just my best experience in what we're seeing in the marketplace and trying to come to it with as much knowledge as we can at the moment.
Gotcha. Ms. Gardner?
Well, I just want to say I'm very excited about this. I'm excited that we feel like we're coming together and we have something that we can all get behind. I do have a question about, it does say that it doesn't include the demo of the east wing, so would that be something that we would have to pull out of a different pocket of money type thing, or is that, I mean, can you estimate what that would be? Is it a couple of million? Is it $500?
I
Like
think
where?
we had something around 5 to 6 million in our original estimate. Again, we were just trying to do very clean cost estimating for you for this first phase, which is to put the building there and then, but as we get cost estimates, we will be designing what the new phase will look like with the parking lot in place of where East Wing will be. So we will be bringing you more definitive numbers of the whole project.
Any other questions? Ms. Huddle?
Ms. Hammond, I move that we adjourn.
Oh, no other questions? Well, Mr. Hogan is not here.
Well, I had a question.
Okay.
I have
Yeah.
a question. I just think that because we're publicly talking about this now and we are over budget, I see that the number has kind of come down a little since we had another conversation. But I think that we need to at least acknowledge that we're over budget and that we're having thoughts and conversations, or we should be having conversations about what we do, where we get that funding. I think that there are options for funding that we have for this project, but I know our community has questions. I think this is a beautiful plan, and I'm very excited about this. I just think that we need to, as we're moving forward, we're talking about how much it costs. I still have I hear a lot of uncertainty about whether or not these numbers are accurate or not. And as we continue to move forward, I know the Irmo community, they're wondering when we're going to break ground and when we're going to start building this and when. I mean, there's several phases to this plan that will probably take a span of a long period of time. So I guess I assume that we would at least kind of have that conversation, where that would come from.
Dr. Ross, you want to tell her our plan?
So currently, you've identified $3.5 million of unassigned for construction. We would, with the purchase of this property, we will use about 600,000 of that, correct? Which leaves about 2.9, which means that we would need to look at allocations of fund balance and reassignments from previous years to do that. So I think there are options to look at it. I think for us, the closer we get to more of the schematic design as outlined in the A&E contract, we would know exactly what those numbers are. And so as we are in a preliminary stage, I think the question is to get the real number and find out what that real number is, and then we have to look at options. There's options in terms of the fund balance, the assignments that we already had, and then, the B word is still it's on the table, a referendum of a bond. So there are different options, but I think the biggest thing is what is the real price, and I think we get to that once we get the full schematic design from our A&E firm.
Mary, I know that you put the motion on the table to adjourn, but before I have a second, I'd like to thank you for your presentation and for your assistant back there and his fine work. And we're, I know, and you had to be very patient and wait since y'all were on the discussion part. But we do thank you, and we appreciate the work of LS3P.
Thank y'all so much. We appreciate it.
Okay, now we'll go back to your motion. You had, she had one to adjourn, but you had a question, so we got that, and I wanted to thank you. Is there a second for the adjourn? And Ms. Gardner seconds, and I know there's no discussion, so all those in favor of adjourning? That is 5-2, no opposed.